Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of great mill, so to rule well, and shalom to the hopeful elect. Okay, this is more news and prophecies coming at you again. It's an article from Zero Hedge, and the title reads, Latest on Project Fair, UK creates artificial traffic jam of 89 trucks in no-deal test run. Okay, so now we know we're in the midst of the Brexit, which according to, you see, this is the thing, we're commanded to measure the time diligently, all right? And what we use as a measuring stick is the Bible, man, the words of prophecies that are written inside of the scriptures, the Holy Bible. Now, when we do so, in order for you to measure the time, you have to understand the prophecies. Amos 3:7 tells you the secrets are revealed unto his servants, the prophets, all right? Whereby, we understand the breakdowns of the scriptures. So when you have the book of Daniel talking about the statue with the 10 feet, with with a gold head, silver, on and on, so on and so forth, and then on the way down, all the way down to the iron feet, iron mixed with miry clay. All right, the feet. Now those feet, the feet is talking about the EU, NATO, and the EU nations. Okay, part being strong and part being weak. Now, this is coming to pass, all right, that even as they all mingled together. Let me actually just read that. It's, all right. Okay. So this is Daniel's 2:40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with the miry clay. So it has the strength of iron, but it's going to be divided, and the Brexit is a show of this prophecy coming to pass. And it also tells you in the book of in the gospel, basically, many different parts of the gospel, but the one coming to mind first and foremost is in the book of Matthew. It says, if Satan be divided against Satan, how then shall his kingdom stand? And this is part of that, that plays on this, man, that they, even though they're part and part, they're together, but they're different parts to that kingdom. They're not ultimately not together, and that's going to be to their detriment. And and as the toes and feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And you have the pigs, Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Greece, and Spain. All right. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. There you go. So that brings us to the Brexit, okay? And this ultimately, as we read in the scripture, is going to bring about their downfall, okay? As Theresa May and her cabinet grow increasingly desperate to whip up enough votes to pass a supremely unpopular Brexit withdrawal agreement, a government has taken their no-deal project fair to absurd new heights, okay? In a demonstration meant to give the British public and their representatives a taste of the chaos that economists and government officials warn could be unleashed if the UK leaves the European Union without a deal. 89 lorries participated in the exercise at an abandoned airfield where they lined up in what critics described as an artificial traffic jam starting at the port of Dover. All right. So this is basically a test run, all right, for the chaos that will be brought about if a no deal Brexit breaks out, Okay. Um, you know, initially, some 150 lorries had been expected to participate in the exercise known as Operation Brock, which means which was as also intended to test the site's suitability as a mass HGV holding bay, while the government heralded the exercise as a success. Man, it was a success. We're gonna read on anyway. It was intended to prepare trucks for new custom checks for EU goods flowing through the port. A truckers' association warned the preparations should have started months ago. So they're saying this is too little, too late, and really too little, too late. They said they were meant to do it with 150, but they did it with 89. So that's about what, uh, 61 trucks missing. All right, but that's light work because we're gonna read on. In other words, under a genuine no-deal scenario, the traffic catastrophe at the port would be much, much worse, according to the BBC. Its chief executive, Richard Burnett, said the trial cannot possibly duplicate the reality of 4,000 trucks that would be held at Manston Airport in the event of a no-deal Brexit. It is too little, too late. This process should have started 9 months ago, he added. At this late stage, it looks like window dressing. Yeah, they're just doing it just to save face. A Conservative MP representing Dover also questioned the usefulness of the exercise. Conservative MP for Dover, Charlie Elphick, also questioned the usefulness of the test. We've got to remember 10,000 lorries visit the Channel ports every single day. 10,000, alright? And they barely had 100 at the port. Now, you were talking 10 times 10, alright? 100 times more than what they did a trial run with for a little bit of the day, alright? We've got a number of 10,000 lorries visit the Channel ports every single day, so a test with less than 100 is not even a drop in the ocean, for real. He said, sending lorries around Kent on a wild goose chase all the way to Manston is at the extreme northeast corner, and then sending them to the port of Dover by a small A road is not the right answer. Alright? So they're giving you an insight. What Theresa May and this government is presently doing, the Conservatives, they're giving you an insight into the madness that's going to come. Alright? So you can't be mad when, they say we told you so. Alright? But really, they're ultimately trying to save face. But really, the people that are telling you so is us, the prophets, man. We're making it known. Though another MP said the minister from Dover was missing the point. But Toby Howe from Kent County Council said, what we're learning from this is not based on 1,000 lorries or whatever. What we want to know is how quickly they can actually get out of the airport behind us and how quickly they will get to the various points on the stage. So whether it's 10 lorries, 20 lorries, 100 lorries, that will give us enough information, that will give the Department for Transport enough information for them to learn from that. Yeah, man, again, it's a drop in the bucket. You ain't gonna know until you know. When there's 10,000 and all the other stipulations that take place, because people are not forgetting, which I'm gonna get into. Aside from the transportation of the goods flowing into the country, there's gonna be many other things that are gonna be variables that you can say that are gonna basically affect, when these products are being brought into the country. The exercise began around 8 a.m. local time. The drivers, and even the time of day, all right? You have rush hour, all right? You have times when the roads are quiet, all right? All these different things, these different variables that have to be weighed in the balance as well. The drivers congregated in a large group at the former airfield before being directed by officials from the Department of Transport, Kent County Council, and the police officers, along with A56 towards towards Dover. A256 towards Dover. The first practice run began in rush hour shortly after 8 GMT, with 4 convoys leaving at intervals between 8:13 and 8:39. The first of the convoys arrived in Dover at 8:52, where they were directed to do a loop around Eastern Docks roundabout. travel along Jubilee Way and drive straight back to the airport. The second test run got underway at 11 o'clock. Lorry drivers who spoke to the BBC on arrival at Manson after the first test said there had been no problems whatsoever. Yeah, all right, mate. Meanwhile, Brexit Secretary Stephen Barclay, and there's a video attached to this which had an issue loaded, but the guy in the video was like, "It is what it is." But I feel like the way it looked through the spirit, I believe that he probably voted Brexit and he really just wants to get the F out the EU anyway. He don't care about what's gonna happen. He just wants to be out the Brexit. He wants a Brexit to happen. All right. Meanwhile, Brexit security Stephen Barclay warned during a parliamentary debate on Monday that the consequences of a no-deal Brexit would be material. Yet, while he doubled down on May's insistence that it's either her deal or no Brexit, rebellious Conservative MPs are pushing ahead with their latest alternative to May's plan in the form of an amendment to a finance bill that would effectively shut down the UK government in the event of a no-deal Brexit unless Article 50 is extended or Parliament explicitly votes for a no-deal exit. So, as you can see from that, you know, the madness, the plot thickens, man. Now, I want to read this. Food prices. Bear with me one moment. Lowerness, this thing, well, it's just saying, alright, give me a moment. Connection's really slow. Okay. So now, it says opinion. Alright. Opinion news. Okay, so food prices will go up, not down during a no-deal Brexit, despite what Jacob Rees-Mogg says. The evidence points to a spike in prices amid the disruption, not the cheaper future promised by Weatherspoon's Tim Martin. And you're listening to the guy that runs Weatherspoons, mate. He drunk one too many pints before he come out with that information. Could Brexit mean cheaper food on our supermarket shelves? The idea has been propagated by politicians such as Jacob Rees-Mogg and business people like JD Weatherspoon's owner Tim Martin, who promised lower prices in his Bear Mat Manifesto. I said it all, man. The Bear Mat Manifesto. You taking a device about? Come on, man. Guy that opens that has pubs. You're listening to him for advice about trade agreements. Shows you how silly these people are, man. In the event of no deal in March, the UK could unilaterally remove all tariffs, import taxes currently levied on imported food, bringing down prices in the shops. Or so the argument goes. On the face of it, this argument intuitively makes sense, but I am skeptical. Food from the EU. First, vast majority of imported food and drink, around 79%, is sourced from the EU. Even if the UK unilaterally removed tariffs on all imported food and drink, no matter its country of origin, we would still import a lot of food from the EU because it's close by. Consumer preference, they're not being ready-made alternative produced elsewhere, sticky supply chains. Any food imported from the EU post Brexit will be more expensive than it is now, if only because of the new bureaucracy associated with the UK no longer being a member of the EU. Promises of frictionless trade outside the single market and customs union are fantasy. Friction and cost can be mitigated via an agreement, but not removed entirely. So let's give an example for instance. Let's do something very simple. You have a man and a woman. A man and woman divorce. Okay, now the man still wants to get the box of the woman. All right. Now the woman, basically, the man made the divorce, but he still wants to get to lay with her and everything. Do you think the woman's gonna give him as easy access to that? Hypothetically speaking, dealing with these women today, that's gonna play on she's gonna take that little, she's gonna leverage that power to her advantage, man. And really, beyond that, dealing with the EU, what they're gonna do, they have another 28 members if the UK leaves. They have to make the UK an example, because if they give them a deal on the same level as what they were when they were in the EU, what's gonna happen? Other people are gonna want to leave the EU, so they're not gonna want them to do that. All right, they're not gonna want to do that. Then on top of that, um, man, um, on top of that, point escaping me, man. Da 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 da. Oh man, it'll come back through, Lord willing. But basically, if them walking away from the good deal that they have right now, they ain't gonna get it as good as they have it now. They're gonna be dealt with as a person outside of the EU, and they have to pay that tariff that is being paid by other nations that are outside the EU. All right. So this is hygiene requirements. Second, one of the main reasons that cheaper products are hard to come by in the UK now has nothing to do with tariffs, which are generally quite low due to numerous free trade agreements and preference schemes for developing countries, for the World Trade Agreement. But at the same time, it's not as cheap as the EU. Instead, it is due to them not meeting the EU's strict food hygiene requirements. This is why American beef from cows treated with hormones is not on our supermarket shelves. In the event of a no deal, the UK might decide to change these rules, but it would go against a stated government policy and probably prove controversial. So even more debates that need to happen within Parliament, that would, change all these laws. Okay, sterling. Sterling, sorry. Third, and the devaluation of sterling post-referendum has already made imports more expensive. In the event of a no deal, I would expect it to devalue further. So we're talking about the euro, the pound going down in great value, yeah? Which then in turn, the money in your pocket that was once worth £100 might now be worth £50, half in value. So guess what? In order for you to get the products, as well as the tariffs and these different costs that have been put on top of the products, your money's less in value. So that's an extra cost on top of that. Okay. So say if before you could buy some minced meat or a leg of lamb, for example, for like £5. Now it might be £12. Okay, because your money's been devalued. Okay, so they need to keep the price up to cover the currency exchange, and then to cover the tariffs as well. Okay, so this ain't gonna work in no one's favor, man. This is the times that we're gonna head into, man, are gonna be some grievous times. Right, the devaluation of sterling post-referendum has already made imports more expensive. In the event of no deal, I would expect it to devalue further, even if tariffs are removed. A big sterling devaluation post-Brexit could mean imported food remains more expensive than it was at the before the referendum. Of course, exchange rates can change in both directions over time, but the Institute of Fiscal Studies estimates that while the unilateral removal of all import tariffs could reduce household prices by up to 1.2%, its potential saving has already been wiped out by an estimated 2% increase in prices as a result of referendum induced depreciation in value of the sterling. Okay, so you see, money which that changes. Savings not passed on. Right. Fourth, while some specific foods could indeed be imported more cheaply, for example, Brazilian beef, not all, if any, of the saving will be passed through to consumers in the form of cheaper food on the supermarket shelf. There's little evidence to suggest that the removal of tariffs leads to a lower consumer price in practice. Rather, the benefit of free trade agreements and tariff removals is an increase in quality. On the flip side, when costs or tariffs go up, it's more likely to be passed on to the end consumer in the form of higher prices. Right. So, our own food more expensive. Okay. Finally, the UK still produces around 50% of the food consumed in the UK. A no deal would put inflationary pressure on the domestic supply as well. A weaker sterling and other new barriers to importing from the EU could make imported fertilizer more expensive, for example. Also, British farmers will probably find it more difficult to attract migrant labour with the end of the free movement of people, and again a weaker currency reducing the UK's appeal as a destination. In the immediate aftermath of the March no deal, the disruption and uncertainty would undoubtedly see a spike in food prices in the long run. It is hard to see how unilateral tariff removal would offset other inflationary pressures and make food in the UK cheaper than it is now. At best, prices would remain much the same. At worst, the daily shop could become noticeably more expensive. So look, man, yo, people out there, yo, times we're heading into is gonna be a big change. Okay, this is another article. The UK, this is from fullfact.org. It says everything you might want to know about the UK's trade with the EU. Trade with the EU matters a lot, but slightly less than it used to. About 44% of UK exports in goods and services went to other countries in the EU in 2017. Okay, 274 billion out of 616 billion total exports. That share has generally been declining since exports to other countries have increased at a faster rate. But you see, like we read in the last article, even though you don't import, there's still a lot of production in the UK. It's what's being bought from the EU that matters, because if it's a thing such as was mentioned in the previous article, like fertilizer, all right, that's what's needed for you to generate that product. And if it's such a thing as labor from the EU, that's another thing that's needed to generate that product, which then in turn affects the products that we would have been making, that the UK would have been making in this country before, all right, but then now has hasn't basically has gone from being one of the national treasures of GDP, one of the products of that is produced in the UK, and now it goes to it's cheaper to import it, because to make it is too bloody expensive. All right. So reading on. So these numbers, when you see these certain facts and figures, they don't hold a lot of weight, man. All right. That share has generally been declining since exports to other countries have increased at a faster rate. Okay. So the EU's share of the world economy has been declining too. In particular, the developing world has been growing faster than the developed world and is expected to continue doing so. 53% of our imports into the UK came from other countries in the EU in 2017. It's sometimes argued that these statistics overstate the proportion of UK exports that go to the EU because a lot of goods pass through ports like Rotterdam, before being shipped to a final destination outside the EU. Um, okay, so so even some of the products that go to other parts of the world, basically they bypass through the EU first, and it's like I said before, the statistics don't look as great as they look, and the security that is there, all right, they're not that great, man. Okay, so you can read this article. So all this information just shows you that the times they're heading into is times of great despair, man. All right. So I'm gonna read this because this is for the elect. Okay, these lessons are for the hopeful elect, for us to to bolster up our faith, to be sure um, in these times that we're heading into. I'll start from here. The Spirit made me to let this. So this is Job 5:17. Behold, happy is the man who the Most High correcteth. Therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty. That's right. Okay. So if the Lord loves you, He's gonna chastise you. All right. As it tells you in the book of Hebrews. For He maketh sore and bindeth up. He woundeth and His hands maketh whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. Okay, so anything that happens, the Lord Heavenly Father is going to deliver us, and then the last, which is the 7th, okay, nothing's going to touch us, which really denotes on the arrival, when the 7th trumpet blows and the Lord makes His arrival on earth. The Lord is going to get us up out of it, man. All right. In famine He shall redeem thee from death. Okay, and that's a great thing that's coming on the earth. In Jeremiah 15th chapter, the Lord speaks about He appointed 3 kinds of death, and one being, let me read that actually. hmm Read. Uh, sorry, 4 kinds. So this is Jeremiah 15:3. And I will appoint over them 4 kinds, saith the Lord: the sword to slay, and dogs to tear, and the fowls of earth of the heaven, and the beasts of the earth to devour and to destroy. Okay, so these forms of death are gonna come upon the earth, man. All right, and it actually tells the Lord said as well, it's better to be slain by the sword than to die of famine, man. But that's gonna be one of the things that the Lord, you know, those that are of the elect are gonna be delivered from. All right, in famine He shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh. So these things, well, knowing our salvation draweth nigh, we're lifting up our heads, man. We know we've committed ourselves, made a sacrifice, presented our bodies as a living sacrifice, and the Lord is going to hold us down in those times. That's our faith. Okay, so that's why these things that are said, we hold firm to them. Okay, that's why it says, thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, neither shalt thou be afraid of the beasts of the earth, for they shall be a league, for thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field. And that's why it says also in the book of Isaiah about, when the enemy cometh in as a flood, the Lord shall raise up a stand against him. Because basically the Lord's you're gonna have the angels that encampeth around us, and then also endow us with spiritual power, man, to be able to defend ourselves in those sketchy situations. All right. Neither shalt thou be afraid of beasts of the earth, for thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the earth, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. Thou shalt know that thy tabernacle shall be in peace, and thou shalt visit thy habitation and shall not sin. that's going into the kingdom. Okay, thou shalt know also thy seed shall be great, and thine offspring as the grass of the earth. Thou shalt come to thy grave in a full age, like as a shock of corn cometh in his season. Okay. Lo, this we have searched it, so it is. Hear it and know, doubt it for thy good. Right? Isaiah 33:6 tells you wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. And that's why it says the same thing in verse 27, because this is for our good. All right, to as a form of exaltation in faith. So with that, man, I pray you're edified. Shalom.